Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Today we actually have three very interesting gentlemen who have managed to take some time from their busy schedules to share with us some of their thoughts and plans with regard to how this new innovative and tech platform is helping real estate negotiators not just within Malaysia but across the region and the world to become bigger, better and more profitable. Help me welcome Mr. Daniel Ho. He's the Managing Director of IQI Holdings Sdn Bhd. He's been the Managing Director since 2013 and he actually is in charge of everything within the organization. So he oversees the entire business operation, represents the companies to do networking with clients, builds relationships and also in building and maintaining an effective team. We also then have Mr. Georg Chmiel. Georg is the Executive Chairman of Juwai-IQI Holdings Group, which owns the largest online marketplace for overseas properties in China, as well as the largest project sales group in Southeast Asia, with more than 7,000 sales agents. He's also the Chairman of IQI Asia, the #1 online automotive marketplace for Malaysia, Thailand and Indonesia, and is the Non-Executive Director at Centrepoint Alliance, one of the leading wealth management networks across Australia. We also have Nabeel Mungaye. Nabeel is the Chief Operating Officer at Juwai-IQI and has been in the real estate sector for around 10 years. He comes from a strong software and engineering and technology background and as a result is also responsible for aligning group-wide IT objectives and programs. Before IQI, Nabeel worked at Lloyd's of London on the strategic implementation of Solvency II, prior to which he was based at HSBC, Barclays and other UK financial institutions on Basel II, UK asset protection schemes and various other risk management systems. Daniel, this is actually one of the questions I'm going to be really focusing on in terms of where you see the future is going to be, how you see even IQI Juwai is going to tune to the future and how you're going to take advantage of this so that it actually draws the attention, the interest, and also the desire. If someone says, I need to step out of I wouldn't use the word comfort zone because the comfort zone no longer will exist because my business or my industry may collapse. What are my options? So having that raw feedback would really help. So this is one of the directions I really want to push forward in our discussion today. Would that be okay?
Right, sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay.
And Nabeel, the focus again is on tech. I know that we mentioned earlier just now that everything is now coming down on you. Like you've got 5 fingers, but they want 6 fingers growing out of it because everything is tech. I think
Yes.
being in the tech side really will help, or having the tech ability is going to set you guys really apart.
Yes.
Because you're not just saying, I need to see you, then only I can tell you. I need to be present, then only I can show you. So this tech part is really the defining difference that I think IQI has. And Juwai, with your extensive reach beyond the shores of Malaysia, that's an amazing opportunity as well. So
And I think now, exactly, and I think the good thing is that with Juwai-IQI now Juwai-IQI being the same entity, we can bring both of those flows together. We can empower the agents on the listing side. We can empower the consumers and the post-closing part as well. So that entire chain, as well as developers, which is a solution that we're currently working on.
Yes. You know, in the beginning, when we were operating very much under IQI banner alone as an agency, we know the importance of tech and digitization. But we know it is at the back of mind, it is very important, but we never thought that crisis like such has basically outlined, this is absolutely vital for the survival of companies, because imagine if we were to, remain very traditional and then operate in such a way that we are as any other agency. And when all these things come in play, it can really caught you by surprise. And even for us, at this moment, having the blessings of, enabled by technology, we have to still be very careful and we have to, even push our business to be very resilient. And that's very important. Eventually, at the end of the day, to really survive, out of this crisis, tech enablement is one of the key factors.
Exactly. I think when you guys designed your tech structure and your tech strategy, it was never to deal with a crisis per se, but it actually dovetailed very nicely. You wanted to empower negotiators all across the world to sell properties from all around the world. And that was actually the underlying requirement. You must have a strong tech. That's number one.
Yeah.
But because circumstances have made such whereby, hey, it can also be used to overcome certain conditions that may just pop out of the blue. That what happens if, for instance, people can't move? What happens if people can't go and see face to face? What happens? So
Yes.
this one works very well. But my other question here is this: how do you support negotiators from all across the world for training purposes, or for how do you impart knowledge, information, education, motivation? How do you motivate your negotiators now when they may be feeling, wow, what can I do? You know, I'm so locked down, my customers can't come out. What can I do? That's also a very interesting thing.
You know, like at this moment is another tech empowerment that we are using. You know, we have the blessing of, we have set up our own broadcast center way earlier. And we are using the knowledge that we have acquired through, setting up of this broadcast center to empower our agents. We call them warriors, all over the world. And we are doing it on a daily basis now. While we are in today's lockdown, on a daily basis, we are empowering our people. There are training sessions ongoing every day, multiples of hours, for them to basically brush up their knowledge, build their competency, help them to reach a wider, potential buyers and whatnot. These are the time that really they can really use the time to sharpen up their skills. And we are doing exactly that. I think now is not the time to relax, and sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee. It's not about taking it easy, because desperate situation calls for desperate measures. And companies got to be really be on top of their game, push and enable every single one of their team members to push forward, because this crisis is unlike any other crisis. It is a combination of health and economic crisis. In the past, you look at 2008, it is a global financial crisis where it is a commercial crisis. It is a business sense crisis, but there is no impact on people's health. People's health is not jeopardized. But over here, you are seeing that, collectively all over the world, cities are being locked down. So when your cities is being locked down because of health issues, your economic will be affected drastically. So how is company going to survive? You can only survive but by empowering every single unit of your key member and members to fight for the survival of the company.
Well
Period.
done.
There's no shortcut.
There's no shortcut. That's right.
Daniel, that was an excellent answer, because I wanted to ask Georg the next question because of the China exposure. Georg, you've actually gotten exposure in China, and China has gone through this weeks earlier, and you've actually probably seen what's happening on the ground over there. Probably you have a 4-week head start or 2-month head start compared to all of us here in Malaysia. What lessons have you learned over there that has either A, enriched your ability to see where the future will be, and 2, how does that lessons come back to Malaysia to take forward Juwai-IQI further?
I think the key lesson which we have learned in China, and it started in late December and in also January, was that we need to fully respond and adapt to the change. We need to immediately move to a working from home structure. We need to be very close to our customers using the modern forms of communication, and we need to remove anything which is no longer suitable to the new environment. For example, expos. We've gotten rid of all physical expos and moved everything online, and thereby also help our customers transform into this new world. And so we are now operating fully remotely as a company of Juwai within the greater Juwai-IQI environment. And the same thing is true for IQI. So we are now a completely virtual company.
Right, okay. So does that mean that the training, the motivation, the ability to still reach out and touch your negotiators, almost everything is now online without much physical connection?
Definitely. In the past, it was optional for people to dial into additional training. I mean, we have done e-learning and other interactions before, but now it's mandatory. For example, at this moment, in parallel to us having this call, there is an expo happening, which was originally planned to happen in Hong Kong. It's now happening in the internet, in the cloud, and properties will be showcased at this moment here in the cloud. So the transformation was actually fairly easy, even if there's elements to it which are very, very hard. and there's obviously concerns about people livelihood and financial strength. But at the same time, for our company, given that technology and maximizing technology is one of our mantras, it is actually helping us implement our vision even faster.
Then Nabeel, how much pressure does this now add onto you, now that everything now is very tech heavy or tech reliant?
It's not pressure in the sense of something that we can't handle. So we've always been technology focused, and if you look at the tools that we're actually using, they are tools that we've built previously, and we've utilized them. It's just the adoption certainly from the consumer perspective hasn't been great, because people still want to be able to go into a building and have the smell of coffee, for example, as owners are trying to entice them to buy. And I think now consumers are okay to look at not having that. They're okay to be able to see the buildings virtually, perhaps. So in terms of tech, we have 360 visualizations, 360 tours. We have lots of training going on online. We have digital sales material. We have digital sales charts. So everything can happen without any physical contact between the different players. So is it putting pressure? It's putting a good pressure. It's something that this is our moment to rise from a technology perspective, and it's to show what can happen as a new business coming out of this entire scenario.
Great. So does that mean that the Juwai-IQI warrior mindset would be you must be tech savvy first, or you must be very open to tech, even though you've had no experience using tech? You've got to be very adaptive to the new market conditions. You need to basically be able to communicate not just in person, but you need to still use technology to still get across the message. Are these the kind of qualities that you're looking for in terms of the Juwai-IQI warrior?
I think that's the quality that the world demands at the moment. So when we talk about disruption, it happens across the business space, but also at the personal space. So there was a discussion not too long ago about how AI will replace people. And the view that we've always had is that AI will actually open up a whole new category of employment and jobs, and people will need to obviously adapt so that they don't get disrupted themselves. So that's where we see it. Do our IQI, Juwai-IQI warriors need to be tech enabled? Yes, they'll need to be able to understand it, definitely. But we're here to hold their hand. So we have property agents who are 19 years old all the way up to 70, and yes, certainly there are some challenges, but they all they all work within their abilities, and they pick up the technology as they need to.
What, Daniel, can I ask you, what would be the number one criteria that you'd be looking for when you allow someone to wear the Juwai-IQI shirt? What would you say?
One of the important criteria is the willingness to learn and the willingness to adopt technology. In this world that is so connected, the only way to go is being able to get yourself familiarized with all the new technological tools, because that tool actually helps you one way or another. Some of the tools help you to reach out to clients. Some of the tools help you in content creation. Some of the tools help you to add a lot more value to the value proposition that you have. So if our people do not know how to utilize all these tools, they will be incapacitated. So what we do at IQI is we have set up our online academy that empowers anyone, even though they might come from a background without digital knowledge. They are potentially could be a very traditional person, bricks and mortar kind of approach. But they are able to learn this because we have it in a very easy step of modular steps where they can progress from beginners, intermediate, and advanced, so on and so forth. And all these academy have taken us a lot of time to build over the years, and we are quite happy in the sense that novices in digital tools are able to upgrade their knowledge as they come into our platform, and then they continue to build on their expertise.
Okay.
My advice for other businesses that are obviously in this situation is that training isn't something you can just bolt on. It has to be in your DNA. There has to be this active interest from the stakeholders in the business to actually want to impart that to their people. I think that's really important. And as Dan said, we've built this up across a long period of time. So we know how to conduct the training. Obviously, digital training is quite different to face-to-face. It can be, a little bit boring, perhaps, but we're able to spice it up and keep that interaction still going and make it fun.
Looking at as far as we as a person is concerned, we are right now in Malaysia, and you look at so many different countries. They can be thousands and thousands of miles apart, from us, Malaysia. But in essence, if you look at this whole epidemic crisis that we are facing, China had a flu. Right now, the whole world is in fever. You see how connected this world is. It is very small. Like it or not, due to travel, due to technology, people is so connected. And if anyone who wants to thrive in any other business moving forward in future, if they are not digitally empowered, it is very difficult for them to move on. Even the blue collar segment, they have to, one way or another, embrace a form of digitization so that they are able to operate, machineries and whatnot, automation. So the key point here is attitude and the willingness, the attitude of each person that comes into whichever company that they are going to. They have to be able to pick up their willingness to learn.
Georg, due to your background working with a former tech company that specializes in real estate, iProperty per se, and also your experience in terms of taking this concept of real estate transactions or real estate businesses and advertising to China as well, where everybody in China is also pretty much tech enabled already. How do you see this particular situation moving forward in terms of the mindset shift that's needed for the Chinese agents to become better and for the IQI warriors there to become better in doing what they're supposed to do or doing what they need to do to capitalize on this particular situation?
In parts, the high degree of automation in China at the moment is an outcome of the last epidemic, which was SARS, which was not as dramatic as the current crisis is. What the current crisis opens up is with China coming back into business and us as Juwai-IQI being an online driven proptech company, there is a great opportunity now to reach those Chinese buyers using our technology, our websites, our media assets, and get in front of them. And this might help also get the whole global economy, especially in the proptech sector, back on work. The more interaction with the parts of the world which are getting back to business exist, the better the healing of the global economy can happen. And agents who work for Juwai-IQI are really in a driver's seat to benefit from this recovery.
Okay. Do you see when this thing particularly is over, and I'm going to open this question to all three gentlemen over here, when this situation is over, when things start to get back to normal again, where do you see the signs of life happening in terms of which country starts first? I think China is probably slightly ahead in terms of the curve. But in terms of the other countries where
yes,
IQI is also represented in, where do you see the signs of life starting and how are you going to be taking advantage of that? Can I have anybody
I do believe
this question?
I mean, from my perspective, I would say China and Southeast Asia definitely will benefit first, especially what works in Southeast Asia's favor is the favorite climate, so be a bit warmer, therefore not as much impacted by the current epidemic, and the slightly younger population as well. So I do believe Asia will be, and this is the wrong term to use, the big winner out of this whole situation.
I do agree with Georg. At the end of the day, the way I look at it is, you look at the rate of recovery from every single country and how each and every country have undertaken measures to curtail this epidemic. And you may see that, like Asia and Southeast Asia, they are very vigilant in curbing this spread. The sign of whichever countries that recovers first, these are the countries that will spearhead in terms of economic recovery. Like if you are seeing, looking at United States and Europe, the spread is getting worse and worse. And US have just overtaken China in terms of the total numbers of COVID-19 spreading. And they are going to take a lot more time to curtail that spread. And so long as if a country does not recover from this epidemic, it is very difficult for that country to rise economically. So I'm seeing that, you know, China, as well as the Southeast Asian country, they took very decisive and very proactive measures to curtail this. Hence, you know, I think we are at the forefront to recover economically.
And I think just to add to that, if we look at the study from JP Morgan a few days ago, they placed Malaysia as being one of the sort of leaders in that area. They expect Malaysia to recover the quickest and to have the least amount of fatalities and impact from that. And I think that's a really good testament to how Malaysia's handled this entire crisis from the lockdown perspective. So as much as we may dislike it, it is actually, you know, for our own safety and benefit and for the entire country as a whole.
I've got a little bit of an economics question now to ask and to see how you guys think about where the new future will be or the new normal will be. If the economic trends for the time being, because of the headwinds and because of this COVID-19 situation, is going to put a lot of pressure on SMEs, it's going to put a lot of pressure on jobs, whether they may not, whereby they may not necessarily be able to pay the salaries, or it may go to a down trough. Whether it's a V curve or a U curve, there's still a down trough that they're looking at. Do you see property ownership demand, which I assume a lot of people are saying is going to be pretty much slowed down over the next 2 to 3 years? Do you see that playing out to a change in attitude whereby people say, I don't want to buy anymore, I just want to rent? So it'll move from a buying methodology or mentality to a rental mentality. Do you see that happening, gentlemen?
The way I look at it is, you know, like in every major crisis, every single one of them, there's always recovery. Yeah. Secondly is when you talk about property is a necessity. So in good times, the buying will increase. In crisis time, they will still be buying, but it will decrease. Property, like any other industry, is not insulated from economic crisis and shocks. So we have to, that is why, you know, like every single company in every industry, they have to be resilient and vigilant, because no one is insulated except very few key industry. They are sort of like experiencing a boom. You know, like the way I want to look at it is this crisis have boom and bust, winners and losers per se. So the winners are the medical, the preventive, the food delivery, etc., etc. Video streaming, video conferencing, etc. But the losers are huge amount of industry is experiencing losing. But at the end of the day, when you are losing, when you have a contraction on demand, you will also have recovery. When the demand comes back, you will find that you are in a position where your supply, because you have contract your supply to cater for the reduced demand, is insufficient to cater for the new demand during times of recovery. That is where you will see a spike in prices. That is where you see a spike, you know, a lot more demand chasing after very little supply. So it is always in a cycle. So right now, you know, like it or not, we have gone through the boom. And right now at this crisis area is a little bit of a downturn. Just be prepared.
What would your advice be then in terms of, say, I wouldn't use the word a young millennial, but someone who has probably gotten maybe 10 to 50,000 ringgits. I'm using the Malaysian example first. I've got access to cash. I've got a semi-stable job. I know that I'm not going to get canned because I'm not upper management, whereby cost is such a concern, but I'm a needed gear and not an accessory in the operations of my business. I can afford to probably borrow under normal circumstances up to $500,000. What would your advice be? Should I look for deals now? Should I buy now? Should I say, well, hang on, let's wait until this whole thing blows over? What should I do?
You know, like, I do mingle up with a lot of different groups of people, you know, like different groups of people, they have different priorities. But I think at the end of the day, let's look in general crisis time. During crisis time, what tends to happen? Crisis time, you have a reduced demand compared with an pre-existing supply, which is sort of like too much of a supply to cater for the reduced demand. So in order for many of the suppliers to carry on with their business, they would have to dispose of the supply. So there will be a lot of good deals around. And even people like Warren Buffett says, be fearful when, everyone is being greedy. Be greedy when, everybody is being fearful. So these are the time where there are opportunities. I do know that a lot of millennials, a lot of X generation for the matter, or baby boomers even, they are looking out for opportunities. Those who have resources, this is the time to actually choose your pick. Because why? You get the best deal at this time where loan will be the cheapest, property will be the cheapest, everything will be depressed. There's a lot of goodies coming your way. So buy, but the fundamentals of investment does not, it doesn't mean that you can simply buy or you can simply invest. So buy with the right criteria, buy with the right fundamentals, and you won't go wrong. Because you look at the previous crisis of 2008, global financial crisis, there is a lot of people that place their bet during those times. Because in the face of crisis, there are abundance of opportunity as well. So how do you uncover all this opportunity? This is where you have to do your own homework, study the market, understand the market, understand the investment product that you're going to buy, and place your bet.
Excellent. Well, one of the things
I was about to say the same thing. Like especially in these times, there's a lot of people have a lot of time. They have access to online, so use the time to brush up your knowledge, to do research, and find the right time and the right property which suits you. It's a time for people who want to do good investments.
And it's also the opportunity for businesses that can cater to that, from a technology perspective, to then create that supply for these new types of people who are looking for property online.
I think one of the things that I have to commend is that IQI trains its warriors, not just in the technique of selling or not in terms of the methodology of selling, but you guys really empower and provide them with information, with research, with data, and with insights. And that I think makes the big difference between a salesperson and a consultant, and someone who's actually interested and genuinely interested in trying to help your buyers, your clients, make the best decision, not a good decision, but the best decision. And because you guys are actually all across Asia and also around the world, you're looking at opportunities that's not just in one location, but anything that actually suits their financial goals in the long term. That I think is the biggest difference that I've seen between agencies here in Malaysia.
Yes, in fact, I do agree with you, Ernest. Your analysis on how we operate, is very much spot on, because ultimately, buyers is looking for value. And it is very difficult to build credential. It's very difficult to build a relationship if it is just one-sided. We cannot be a wholesale company, by just pushing out volume. We have to add value to every single buyers that comes into in contact with our people and or buying through our platform. Because ultimately, the purposes of home buyers, two major reasons. The first one is they wanted a home. So we have to help people, to really identify good properties that suits their requirement. That's one thing. Secondly is they buy for reasons of investment, for passive income and whatnot. And that, we do a lot of, spend a lot of resources to qualify many products. Say for example, some of the development that we felt is not up to par. Though they could be paying good commissions, we would rather let them go. Or the reference of certain developers is not up to par, we would rather let them go. We just want good projects, so that ultimately it is the relationship that matters. If a happy buyer buy from us, they will remain a happy customers throughout the entire property journey with us.
Great. Georg, do you have anything to add to that?
I think there's really nothing to add to that. That sums it up perfectly. While it is a difficult time, it's also a time which opens up significant opportunities. When we get out of this, the world will be far more digital and will be far more advanced. Well
done. And Nabeel, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think they've summed it all up. It's always the best thing about being the last one in the chain. No.
A little bit of a personal thing right now, gents, just to make this a little bit light-sided. other than work during this MCO? Daniel, what are you doing? Georg, what are you doing other than work? And Nabeel, what are you doing?
Dan?
For me, I spend a lot of time, with my wife and with my daughter, as well as with my in-laws. They are living with me. I start to cook. It's quite yeah. I used to cook. I have a sort of like a small little passion, about cooking. So I love to eat. And start to rekindle my skills. Those years when I was cooking actively for my family. And and a little bit of exercise. I think that's very important. Keep a healthy body, so that when you are ready, you can go out. Your body can sort of like live up to the requirement. And you are able to sort of push yourself better physically.
Excellent. Yep.
Well, I mean, obviously Nabeel and Daniel gave the clear direction that everybody in Juwai-IQI needs to be fit, and so I'm doing a run every day now. And what I'm also doing is I've enrolled myself to an online course with Tel Aviv University because while I know a lot about the China technology, there's a lot of interesting technologies coming out of the Israel market.
Yes,
Well done.
certainly is. Yes, absolutely. So for me, it's mostly about exercise. I'm quite very keen on exercise, but there's only so much you can do in the house. So it's really about spending time with family. But my passion is technology, and this is the time when I have certain pet projects, as I call them, things that I want to do, like enhancing our AI-backed Telegram bot that we have for the IQI side, and really adding additional capabilities and features to that, learning new languages, and you know what it's like in the geek life. Those are the things that I never get a chance to do when I'm involved with the business so much.
Well done. I guess the central message is don't stop, keep the momentum going, and don't waste the MCO days that you have to spend at home.
That's
Absolutely.
right. There are so many hobbies that we want to do, during our busiest time, but we are unable to do it. So I think right now, it's just like perfect time, for us to rekindle those hobbies, go back into that and enjoy, for a while, before
Great.
Normalize again.
Well, thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. I think this is an excellent sharing session, whereby we managed to drill down not just in terms of where you guys currently are, but where you guys are going to take the business forward. And I think post MCO period and towards the later half of 2020 and the years beyond, I really am excited to see where this Juwai-IQI partnership is going to go. And I think it's going to shake the world. So congratulations again. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. And I wish you all the very best moving forward.